There is a strange feeling around Celtic right now, a sense that movement might finally be happening, even if nobody is brave enough to say it out loud. The transfer window has reached that awkward stage where rumors grow louder, needs become more obvious, and patience among the support starts wearing thin. You look at the squad, you look at the injury list, and you can almost hear the questions being asked from the stands and across the city. Something has to give, and maybe, just maybe, the first small signs are starting to appear. One of those signs comes with the return of Stephen Welsh, a player who feels familiar, but at the same time oddly fresh. His loan spell at Motherwell has been brought to an early end, not because of drama or disappointment, but simply because Celtic need bodies at the back. Numbers are thin, options are limited, and there is no hiding from that reality anymore. Welsh goes straight back into the picture as someone who has been playing regular football, handling pressure and earning praise away from the spotlight of Parkhead. At Motherwell, he was trusted, relied upon, and spoken about in positive terms, starting almost every match he was eligible for and becoming a steady presence in a side, enjoying a strong campaign. That experience matters. This is not a player returning cold or lacking confidence. He comes back sharper, more battle-tested, and with something to prove. In many ways, it does feel like welcoming a new signing, even if his face is a familiar one. There is also the quiet understanding that his future might still be uncertain. If another centre-back arrives before the window shuts, the conversation around Welsh could shift again. For now, though, Celtic have made a practical decision. They need cover, they need reliability, and they need someone who knows the club and the league inside out. The wider context makes that decision even more understandable. Injuries have ripped chunks out of the squad, particularly in defensive areas. Key starters have been missing for weeks, some for months, and there is no quick fix on the horizon when your first choice right back, your most commanding centre-half, and an important attacking option are all unavailable. The margin for error disappears. Every knock, every suspension, every tired performance suddenly carries more weight. That is the position Celtic find themselves in, and it explains why recalling a player like Welsh becomes not just sensible but necessary. Looking across the squad as a whole, the picture is far from comforting. Alongside Welsh, Odin Holm has also returned from his loan, but his situation feels very different. That spell never really took off, and there is little sense that he features in the immediate plans. Talks are already happening behind the scenes about finding him another destination, likely another temporary move. As the clock continues ticking on his contract, it is another reminder that recruitment has not always landed where it needed to, leaving gaps that now feel bigger than ever. Strip away the long-term absentees and the lack of depth becomes glaring. Take 3 or 4 key players out of any team and you will feel it, but at Celtic, the drop-off in options has been stark. It forces players to play through fatigue, limits tactical flexibility, and leaves the manager firefighting rather than building. That word, firefighting, sums up the current window perfectly. This does not feel like a period of careful squad evolution. It feels reactive, urgent, and driven by necessity rather than vision. The needs are obvious to anyone watching. Up front, there is a growing sense that one striker might not be enough, especially with ongoing fitness concerns around the current options. Goals have not flowed freely, and too often attacking moves break down before they really begin. Out wide, despite flashes of form and genuine effort, there is still a feeling that quality and consistency are missing. Yang has been a rare, bright spark in recent weeks, bringing energy and confidence, but expecting one player to carry that burden alone is unrealistic. The midfield, while improved in certain moments, still lacks bite and urgency. There are spells where the ball moves too slowly, where pressure is applied half a second late, and where opponents find space far too easily. What feels missing is that injection of pace and intensity, someone who can drive the team forward when the tempo drops. Too often, it looks like everyone is waiting for someone else to take responsibility, and that hesitation costs control of matches. And on the left side, uncertainty remains. The options there have yet to fully convince, and while there is potential alone does not win titles or navigate tough European nights. A short-term solution, even a temporary one, could make sense if it adds balance and competition. At centre-back, even with Welsh returning, the depth still feels fragile. One more injury, one more setback, and the situation could quickly become uncomfortable again. All of this feeds into the growing discussion around what Celtic can realistically achieve in this window. The list of needs is long, maybe longer than what the club is prepared to address in one go. Supporters can see what is missing, but they also recognize the pattern of recent windows where ambition has not always matched expectation. There is a sense of lowering the bar, of hoping for solid rather than spectacular, of settling for what can be done rather than what should be done. That tension becomes even clearer when striker links start circulating. Names emerge, reports appear, interest is registered, awareness is acknowledged, and yet nothing concrete seems to happen. One such name is Kieran Bowie, a forward enjoying a strong season and attracting attention across the league. His numbers show progress, improvement, and the kind of development that suggests a player ready for a bigger step. He is young enough to grow, old enough to contribute now, and clearly on an upward trajectory. The problem, as always, comes down to valuation and intent. The fee being talked about reflects the modern reality of the Scottish market, where talent no longer comes cheap, even domestically. Other clubs know what they have, and they know there will be interest from the south of the border. Celtic are no longer the automatic destination they once were, and that changes the dynamic completely. If the football department truly believes Bowie can make an immediate impact, then the responsibility shifts upstairs. Decisions have to be bold, not cautious, because hesitation usually ends with another club moving faster. That is where frustration starts to creep in. And supporters have seen this story before, where admiration does not turn into action and opportunity slips away quietly. The question hanging in the air is simple. Do Celtic want to fix problems decisively or just manage them until the summer? The early signs suggest a club responding to pressure rather than dictating the market, and that leaves everyone waiting to see what the next move will be, if it comes at all. As the striker debate rolls on, another name from the continent has entered the conversation, and it feels like a familiar type of link that Celtic fans have learned to treat with caution. Reports from France suggest interest in Mohamed Bamba, a forward whose season has not exactly caught fire. The idea being floated is a loan deal with an option to buy, which already tells its own story. It is a low-risk approach on paper, but it also raises questions about ambition and clarity. Bamba's return in front of goal this season has been modest, and when you dig into the minutes played, the picture does not suddenly become more encouraging. Confidence appears to be an issue, and when a striker is already struggling for belief, stepping into the pressure environment of Celtic Park can either spark a revival or deepen the problem. There is always the argument that a change of scenery can work wonders, especially for a young forward still finding his way. Training standards, crowd energy, and the expectation to dominate domestically can lift certain players. At the same time, the margin for error is tiny. Celtic are not in a position where they can afford long adaptation periods or experimental solutions up front. Every dropped point feels heavier when the squad is stretched, and every missed chance becomes a talking point that lingers longer than it should. That is why links like this are met with a shrug rather than excitement, a sense of hoping for the best while bracing for disappointment. That feeling has only been reinforced by the apparent collapse of the move for Jocelyn Tibby. What initially seemed close has unraveled due to injury concerns, with surgery now required and the timeline suddenly unclear. On the surface, it looks straightforward. A medical issue changes the equation and the club steps back. But it also invites cynicism, especially given the broader context of pressure and scrutiny. Chasing an injured player in the first place never sat comfortably, and when the deal falls apart, it leaves more questions than answers about planning and priorities. There is also the footballing side to consider. Even before the injury news, there was debate about whether Tubby represented the level Celtic should be aiming for. The numbers did not leap off the page, and the highlights did not silence doubts. When a club is in need of immediate impact, settling for projects or gambles feels like a luxury they do not have. The sense that this move fading away might actually be a blessing rather than a blow is hard to ignore, even if it leaves another hole unfilled. Out wide, the situation remains just as complicated. Interest from elsewhere in Yang has been noted, but the reality of the current squad makes a departure unlikely. He has been one of the few players injecting urgency and unpredictability into recent performances, and losing that without a ready-made replacement would only deepen existing issues. At the same time, there are whispers of another right-sided option keen on a move. Discussions centered around a loan with future possibilities attached. It is the kind of deal Celtic have leaned on often, flexible and cautious, designed to limit risk while keeping doors open. Age profiles and experience levels come into play here as well. Bringing in someone slightly older than expected can sometimes help steady things, especially in high-pressure moments. The Scottish game is unforgiving, and adapting quickly is non-negotiable. Still, loans with options can also feel like half measures, solutions that postpone decisions rather than resolve them. Supporters crave certainty, players who arrive with clear roles and clear backing, not temporary fixes who might be gone before they fully settle. All of this circles back to the same underlying issue, the lack of coherence in how this window is unfolding. It does not feel like a plan being executed step by step. It feels like responses to problems as they arise, patching gaps rather than reshaping the squad. Injuries have forced hands, yes, but they have also exposed how thin things were to begin with. When a recall from a domestic loan becomes headline news, it tells you everything about the state of depth. Stephen Welsh's return symbolizes that reality. Reliable, committed, and familiar, he offers stability in an uncertain moment. But he also highlights how reliant Celtic still are on players developed in-house because recruitment elsewhere has not delivered consistently enough. There is nothing wrong with trusting your own, but there needs to be balance, competition, and progression alongside that trust. Otherwise, the same names cycle back into prominence whenever a crisis hits. The midfield discussion refuses to go away either. Improvements have been visible in flashes, but control and intensity remain inconsistent. There are matches where the tempo looks right for short spells, only for it to drop off again, inviting pressure and frustration. What is missing is that sense of authority, a player who dictates rhythm and imposes urgency when the game drifts. Without that, Celtic risk being reactive even within matches, chasing momentum instead of setting it. As the days tick by, the window begins to feel less like an opportunity and more like a test of nerve. How much are Celtic willing to do to protect their season, and how much are they prepared to leave to chance? Every rumour, every stalled move, every recall adds another layer to the conversation. Fans are not demanding perfection, but they are desperate for clarity and intent. They want to see a club that recognizes its weaknesses and acts decisively, not one that hesitates until options narrow. There is still time, technically speaking, but time has a habit of disappearing quickly in January. Deals that feel close can collapse overnight, and targets can vanish with one phone call from elsewhere. Celtic find themselves at a crossroads where small decisions could have lasting consequences. Whether it is committing to a striker, reinforcing wide areas, or injecting life into midfield, the need for action is undeniable, and the longer it takes, the louder the questions will become, especially as the season moves into its most demanding phase and the pressure refuses to ease. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are swirling round Parkhead after talk of a fiery dressing room scene involving O'Neill, a figure whose shadow still looms large over the club. Sources close to the camp claim the former gaffer let rip behind closed doors, unloading a volley that has since become the stuff of rumour. "You're soft. In my day, this never happened," he is said to have barked, the words cutting through the room like a cold Glasgow wind. Whether it was a guest visit, a phone call amplified by loudspeaker, or simply a retelling by those present, the tale has taken on a life of its own. The speculation comes at a time when the mood around Celtic feels brittle. Training ground smiles are said to be forced, confidence fragile, and the old certainties harder to find. Insiders mutter that standards have slipped, that the hunger once taken for granted has gone missing. O'Neill's alleged blast has been seized upon by supporters as a symbol of a wider malaise, a reminder of an era when the shirt weighed heavy and excuses were met with a sharp word rather than a shrug. There is no official confirmation, of course. Club spokesfolk keep their counsel, and those in the know insist details have been exaggerated in the retelling. Still, the idea of O'Neill exploding has struck a nerve. To some, it's a welcome jolt, a needed slap to wake a squad accused of being a bit too comfortable. To others, it's a sign of disconnect, proof that the past is being dragged into the present without a clear plan forward. Around the city, the debate rumbles on. Pubs buzz with aye or no arguments about whether modern players can handle old-school demands. Was it a motivational thunderbolt or just nostalgic bluster? For now, it remains rumour and smoke, but the sense of crisis feels real enough. In Glasgow, even whispers can roar. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.